You are what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for.
In today's video, we're going to be creating a beautiful journal or recipe book, or however you want to use it. This video will be part 1 on creating the exterior part of the book, and we're going to do a walkthrough of the products that we're going to use to create this book. I'm using the Aquarelle Dreams by Prima Marketing. It is an absolutely gorgeous collection filled with pastel lavenders and violets and blues and just absolutely dreamy, gorgeous papers. So let's have a flip through of what we're going to use, and then we're going to start making this book. Okay, to create this project, we're going to need a couple of pieces of chipboard, and I have 2 pieces that measure 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to cut them down. So I've got my big Tonic Studios trimmer here, and I'm going to pop these in, and across the 8.5 inch side, I'm going to cut this down to 6 inches. And my trimmer is a good strong one here so that I can cut this and not worry. If you don't have a trimmer that can do this, you can always use a ruler and a craft knife. So I'm going to go ahead and cut both pieces down to 6 inches, and then across the 11 inch side, I'm going to cut them down to 9 inches. So I'll have 2 pieces that measure 6 by 9. And then for the spine, I'm going to grab one of the scrap pieces that are left over, and I'm going to cut this down to 9 inches. And then I'm going to rotate it and cut it down to 1.5 inches. I think this is a perfect size for the little book that we're going to create. So I don't need any of these scrap pieces of chipboard. You can save those. I'm not going to use those today. So I've just got these 3 pieces here. So I'm going to grab my corner rounder, and I'm going to round the outside corners of my chipboard. So for the front cover, I'm just going to round the outside pieces, and then for the back, I'll do the same. So I'm just rounding those 2 corners, and there we go. Now we're all set to start covering these up and turn them into a book. I've got a couple of pieces of lavender cardstock from Basil. This is a smooth cardstock, and I'm just going to kind of figure out what I need. I need to cut these pieces down to 8.5 by 11. So if you already have 8.5 by 11 cardstock, this would be perfect. So I've just got these laid out, just trying to figure out how this is all going to come together. I'm going to apply adhesive to my first piece of chipboard. And I'm just using a double-sided tape here, and I've got a craft pick, and I also have this We Are Memory Keepers bookmaker tool, and I'll show you how I'm going to use that. I'm going to cover this whole piece with double-sided adhesive, making sure I get as close to the edge as possible. I'll use my craft pick to pull off the adhesive backer, and then I'm going to kind of eyeball this to make sure that I get an inch around the top, the bottom, and the left side of this piece of paper. So I'm going to line this up. I'll use my grid mat here just to help me eyeball this, and I'll get that pressed into place. Okay. And then I'm going to use the weird little stick end on my bookmaking tool. And what this is going to do is give me perfect placement in between my spine. So I'm going to line this up here, make sure that everything is good. I'll apply double-sided adhesive to the back part of this spine. And I'll get this piece lined up almost right to the edge of that cardstock. Okay, and I'm using the tool to make sure that I get everything nice and straight. Looks good. All right, then I'm going to flip this over and apply adhesive to the cardstock. I'm going to attach the 2 pieces together so that when they open and close, that sort of seam there is not going to interfere with the open and closing of the book. So there's going to be no stress on those two pieces that attach together. So I'll apply a couple of strips of adhesive there, peel off the release paper, and then I'm going to line my other piece of cardstock up, making sure that I don't cross over top of the spine. I just kind of want to line this up where the spine sort of starts. Okay, so I'll get that pressed into place there. And then once that's done, I'm going to apply adhesive to the other cover. So I'm going to flip this back over and I'll apply double-sided tape to the other piece of chipboard and peel off all that release paper and get this secured into place. Once again, I'm using that little weird sort of stick end on my bookmaking tool to help make sure that I get perfect placement in between the spine and the book cover. So this helps me line everything up nice and straight, and I get the exact amount of space that I need. And then the next thing I'm going to do is use that little triangle piece there. It's going to wrap around the corner of our book and create like a miter corner. And we're going to cut those pieces away. So I'm just going to use a craft knife for this. And I'll line up my little bookmaking tool on the corner of my book and cut away all four corners on my book. This is going to help when we're folding the paper in to avoid any stress and any bulk on the corners of the book. So I'll get all four of those pieces cut away, and when using a craft knife, firm, even pressure and multiple passes is the best way to sort of cut without getting jagged edges or having your blade slip. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply adhesive all the way around the edge of that lavender cardstock. We're going to fold this part over and adhere it down to the inside of the chipboard. So I'll get that adhesive all covered up, and I'm going to sort of stand my book up and help start working in those folds. I'll start with the spine, close the spine, and bend in that cardstock, and then pick up the book and bend the top, the sides, and the bottom. So I want to make sure that everything is going to fold together nicely without any cracking or splitting of that cardstock. And I'm just going to work all of those edges in. I'm going to grab my bone folder and sort of run over the edge of the book. This is going to help create sort of like a squared off edge because the chipboard is about 1/8 of an inch thick. It's just going to help us avoid getting any pointy areas. So I'll start peeling off the first top strip of adhesive and use my bone folder, and I'll work in the spine. I'll work in those areas and press them in, and then adhere down the rest of the paper. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and sort of push in those corners. I don't want them to be sharp or pointy or sticking out, so I'm just going to work my bone folder in and press all of those corners. So I'm going to do this to the bottom as well. So I'm peeling off the release paper off the top and the bottom first, and then working those corners in, using my bone folder to help burnish things down and adhere everything, and then also rounding the corners of that paper, just working it in so that when I fold over the sides, nothing is sticking out or pointy. Okay, so I'm just going to crease all that down. I'm going to peel off that release paper and stick down the sides. And then there we go. We have the beginnings of our book. This beautiful lavender paper is so pretty, and the paper that we're using to create this book is absolutely stunning. So everything looks good. Everything is working together the way I want it to. And now I'm going to work on a closure for this book. I want to start working on my closure ahead of anything else because I want to be able to cover up most of it and have it secure. So I've got a scrap here, and I'm going to cover the spine with some of that scrap lavender paper. I've got some double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to press that in. And then I'm going to take another one of those scraps that I had left over and create sort of like a flap to go around the front of my book. So this is a long piece. This is about 11 inches by about 3 inches. So I'm just kind of lining it up here. I've got some double-sided tape on the back of that cardstock, and I'm going to eyeball it and get it kind of in the center and as straight as I possibly can. And this is the back cover that I'm attaching this to on the inside. And then I'm going to be able to fold over this little flap and attach magnets to it, and it will magnetize shut. Grab my little bookmaking tool and sort of fold the cardstock over it to create a little flap. This little flap is going to be a pocket where I'm going to insert my magnets so that they're all covered up. Now I kind of got my magnets flipped upside down, and you'll see what I did here in a minute. These are some basic gray magnets, and there's a plus and a minus, and you want to use one plus and one minus to adhere these magnets together. Now I got my magnets backwards here. If you're going to do this, adhere this down to the inside of that score mark, to the left of the score instead of to the right of the score, so that you don't get kind of backwards like I did. So I've adhered those two magnets. I'm going to grab some liquid glue and seal this little flap shut so that my magnets are buried inside. I'll just press in all of that adhesive, and then I'm going to grab the two negative magnets. You'll notice that the magnets are upside down once I pop them out and they sort of attach themselves to the positive magnet. You'll see what happens. It sort of flips upside down. So that's not what I wanted to happen, because now the adhesive backing is backwards. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to grab some glue dots so that I can put those on the back of my magnet so that they'll adhere to the front of my book. So this is how our book is going to close. Now I need some glue dots to be able to adhere those magnets to the front of my book. And then I'm just kind of figuring out how far I want these magnets to be in on the front of the book so that when it closes, there's not going to be any stress, because the book is going to be filled with paper and ephemera and things. So I want to make sure that it's going to have a healthy space to be able to stuff it full of stuff and open and close with ease. So now I've got those little glue dots on the back of my magnets. Now I'm just going to crease the folds of my little closure. It wasn't folding the way I wanted it to, so I made some score marks in it, and there we go. So once this is filled, it's going to hold together extremely nicely. Alright, so that's going to be it for today's video. The next video, we're going to work on the signatures that are going to go inside of this book. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. All the links to the products that I've used in today's video you can find in the description box down below. If you decide to make a purchase using my links, I very much appreciate that, as it helps support my channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your crafty friends. Coming up on screen is a video I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!